What really is God's forgiveness? And how does that work? Hello, catholiccontriversy here. And one of the hardest concepts for us selfish, sinful humans to understand is God's forgiveness. And it really kind of comes down into two camps where it's, well, if God always forgives, then why shouldn't I sin? Or if I'm sinning and God knows I'm going to sin again, then why does he forgive me? And it's a very, very difficult thing for us to comprehend just because we have different perspectives on things. We're sinful humans, we are selfish humans. So it's very hard for us to forgive each other. So, how can someone that knows all that we did and knows that we are definitely going to do problems again, how can he give us forgiveness and how can it mean anything? Well, week or so ago, this actually came to me in a dream, and I need to share it with everyone. In my hand, I have a cup, just a standard little plastic IKEA cup. But what does it do? It holds liquid. It's not a very pretty cup, as you can see. It's just plain green and a little plastic. Got some nice little ridges on it, but it's nothing decorative, nothing fancy. It's just a cup that you would use to just drink water if you need a cup of water, or put a little bit of milk in, or you could even have a little bit of wine, whatever you want. But its primary purpose is just to hold liquid. And it's not that different from what our soul is. Our soul's purpose, it's just to hold love. It's to hold love for each other and to hold love for God and to hold love for ourselves. So if we think about the liquid as love, whatever we're putting into it, and the cup as our soul, if the cup can hold the liquid, it's fine. We as humans, we look at this cup and we think it's nothing too special about it, so why bother? I need to have something fancier like a wine glass or beer stein or anything like that. But to God, all he really wants is for it to just hold the liquid. Now, what would happen if I took a little drill and put a hole in it? What if I really crushed this really hard and cracked it? Well, it wouldn't hold the liquid all that well. You wouldn't be able to hold water in it without the water going out everywhere. And instead of being filled to the top, if you filled it to the top, within an hour or so, it'd be empty, or at least empty to where the hole is. And that's very much like sin. When we sin, we put holes in the cup of our soul. And when we have those holes in our soul, we're not able to love like we did. We have less capacity for love. And God sees it, humans see it, we see it. We know we can't hold the love. He knows we can't hold as much love. And people around us kind of know that. Now, what happens when God forgives us? What happens when we seek out his forgiveness and receive reconciliation with God? He patches the hole. Where the hole was before, he puts glue, tape, Flex Seal, Mighty Mend It, whatever kind of sealant you want. He puts it on there. Doesn't look quite as pretty as it used to be. Even for this plain little IKEA cup, if it had a nice big crack in it and it had big piece of tape on there, you know, it wouldn't look as good. People would be able to see it and they'd even be judging it even more. And we'd probably be judging it ourselves. We'd judge ourselves and say, our cup does not look as good as it once was. Even though it is sealed and patched, it does not look as good as it once was. To God, that doesn't really matter, though. To God, all that matters is that it holds the liquid. And as long as it's patched and the patch is holding, it will hold the liquid. Now, what happens if you sin a lot? You're going to have a whole lot of holes in here as opposed to someone that doesn't sin quite as a lot. Sure, it's going to look a lot worse and it's going to require a whole lot more patches. But even those who have sinned a lot and frankly have made this cup look like Swiss cheese, as long as they are true and seek God's forgiveness and He patches the holes, they're just as whole as the person who just has a couple of holes and He patches. So if God's always going to patch the holes, why should we try to not put holes in our cups? Well, what happens when you put too many holes in it? Eventually, you're going to lose all structural stability, and your cup's not going to be able to hold anything. And no matter how many patches you put into it, it won't hold. Through God, all things are possible, but for us, we're not going to be able to really recognize our cup anymore. And it's going to be harder and harder and harder for us to truly seek God's forgiveness and get the patches. And it's only when we want to get patched will we be able to have our cups holes filled. Will we be able to have those cracks sealed and be able to once again hold the liquid? And even though it may not look as pretty, it still is possible. But it gets harder and harder every single time. And here's another thing that happens as to why you shouldn't want to sin and why you should try to keep it and why we are encouraged to not sin. Because no matter how good the patch is, eventually it starts to give away. It's not as strong as it used to be when it didn't have the patch in the first place. The glue, anyone who has ever tried to fix a cup will know that eventually the patch will start to give away and you're going to have to replace it. And that's when you seek forgiveness again for failing for the same things that you did in the past. Because when you fail once, you're generally going to have a bit of a pattern to do it. It's going to keep coming back. Sin is like a drug. You're always going to keep wanting to go back to the hit, even when you are on step 12 of Narcotics Anonymous. You're still going to keep wanting to go back. It's still going to be there, and it's still going to just peel away at that tape just a little bit every single time until you have the relapse and you have to get patched again. God will patch it again, but it gets harder and harder every single time, just like with when I was talking about how when you put a whole bunch of holes in it, it becomes harder to patch. And that's basically it, is that you can fix your cup, but it's better to have a fixed cup than a completely broken cup, but it's better for your cup to not need fixing in the first place. And that's my understanding and my explanation of sin and forgiveness and how that all works. This has been Catholic Controversy signing off. May God bless you.